Hello to all the Eucharistic ministers of our parish. Again, this is Carlos Bautista. I would like to do this next session for all the Eucharistic ministers of the parish. And today's session is just going to be a follow-up from last meeting. We're probably going to be you're probably the only ones who are going to have follow-ups from a previous meeting, since we're the only ministry in the parish that has met. But your actual session will just be in the coming the next 2 weeks. You will be right after all of the other ministers have gone. So you are pretty much the end of the first wave of liturgical sessions that we are doing with the liturgical ministers. And so today we're just doing a follow-up from last meeting. I just wanted to reiterate what went on in the meeting, and some of the conclusions that came at the end. So we had a couple of practice rounds. Well, we just had one for those of you who were at the general meeting, not at the makeup meetings, but at the general meeting. We went through a practice round, and technically I was supposed to go through 3 rounds. If you still have your agenda from the meeting that month, we were supposed to go through 3 rounds. However, I realized that there was a lot of questions. I apologize. I had to move my microphone because my dad is sanding the floor, and I hope that doesn't become a problem. I mean, it's kind of annoying, but I hope that none of you will mind that. But anyways, it's very good that everybody has had the chance to answer ask questions at our meeting. That way we can all learn together, and we can all address the questions together as a ministry. But also what we did at that meeting is that we introduced what we call the vision and mission of the ministry. So one of the key vision that I introduced in the ministry was that the Eucharistic ministers would be a vibrant community with the eager desire to learn more about Christ in the Eucharist, and have a devotion, a relationship with Christ in the Eucharist. And so one of the things that if you happen to see the video I did on active participation last Sunday, I learned we probably have learned that the liturgy is the summit of what we do in everyday life, and one of the things that we get to do outside of the liturgy is to have that special devotion, that special relationship, or the lex credendi of what we learn. For those of you who did not see the video on Sunday, lex credendi is coming from a motto that says the law of prayer is the law of belief, which means what we practice at the Mass is eventually reflected and practiced outside of the Mass, and what is practiced and done outside of the Mass is reflected in what we pray and what we do inside of the liturgy. And so that is practically where I was going with the vision, is that the Eucharistic ministers would be a vibrant community with this special devotion of with our Lord in the Eucharist. See, now my dad is done. Well, he'll turn up the machine in a little bit. But also some of the things that we were doing together was that as we were signing in to attend the meeting. I happen to ask the ministers as best as I can to make sure that you put next to your name the Mass that you usually attend to, and the reason why that is because when the new schedule came out in February, or in March in this case, there was a lot of concern that not everybody had the chance to be a Eucharistic minister at the Mass. And so we were seeing together that many people were not signed up to be at the Mass more than at least twice a month, as many of you would say to me that it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to be on the schedule at least twice a month. So I see that a lot of you were just once or maybe none. So that's sort of the reason why I wanted to do is just to make sure that I find the balance between everybody else. So make sure that everybody's at least once or twice a month, and not more than once or twice a month, unless we come to the end, towards the end of the schedule, and we had to put you once more, or a third time in the cycle. I hope that makes sense. And another thing pertaining to the schedule is the issue between B6 and B7, where I put the exclamation points to give the communion to the servers. Now, in the 7:15 a.m. Mass, we did ended up allowing or having the B6 be the minister that gives communion to the altar servers, and then the rest of the masses to be at B7. If when we come back, this continues to be a good thing. In other words, if this works for everybody, then we'll keep it as it is. Now, for your formation sessions, you're only gonna have 2 formation sessions, since we kind of had a formation session that night at the meeting. Our formation session was just basically just some of the things that I've been seeing amongst the Eucharistic ministers that maybe we should address, and we did address it, even though there was some concern of why we had to change, or why we do it that way, or and also the issue of following way too many rules or too many laws in these cases, because there are liturgical laws, and at the same time we have to follow them as best as we can, but also we have to a little bit understand why there are liturgical laws, and why the church tries to tell us that we have to keep these laws. And that's just because, again, the Eucharist is I don't want to say it's a complicated issue, or I don't want to say that it's a delicate issue, but it's a sacrament that we as a people have to really see that it's Christ in the Eucharist, and we're handling Christ in our hands. Once Father gives us the Ciboria and we have the hosts in our hands, we're not just treating hosts, we're treating Christ. And so that's why there are the norms, that's why there are regulations, that's why there are laws, and as to why we should act this way. How should we act? Us as Eucharistic ministers, how should we distribute the Eucharist? And as a priest, how should priests distribute the Eucharist? What are the things that a priest can do that a Eucharistic minister cannot? And so just also that's to prevent confusion amongst the people. So for in this case, if I am a Eucharistic minister and I'm blessing like this, then in the end I would say, well, if people tend to do this, and they say, well, we don't really need a priest to give us a blessing. I myself can give a blessing like that. Well, in the end, what's the point of having priests in the end? That's why that's to show the difference. Priests are individuals who have orders, holy orders, which is the name of the sacrament, and they have been ordained to be in the person of Christ. So every time the priest does this, is not solely the priest that's doing it, but it's Christ who's doing this. Now, what about the session that I had with the lectors of us exercising our priestly ministry? Now, that's different. Our priestly ministry, yes, we can bless, but to a certain extent. Like I said in the meeting, not as solely as to do a sacramental blessing like this, but maybe like saying God bless you, or maybe just putting a sign on the cross like that to our friends or to our family members, to our parents, to our children. That is solely okay, and that is exercising your priestly ministry, being Christ-like to others, not being in the person of Christ, but being Christ-like to others. So that's the difference. So that's another. That's sort of the formation session that you had that day. So that's why we're not doing formation sessions right away in this cases. So your formation session will be the session right after this one. So this Thursday we'll go back to the sacristans, and then towards the end you'll start with your second session in this case. So the two sessions will be having a devotion, or how to have a devotion to Jesus in the Eucharist, and then the other one is basically talking about the institution of two different sacraments on the same night, in theory. And those two sacraments happen to be the Eucharist and Holy Orders. So we will be talking about that at the last part of the session. And now towards the end of today's session, I just want to look ahead. The schedules will come out as it always had. Just pretend that nothing is going on. Just pretend that nothing is happening. And this is just so that we could prevent any future confusion that's going on in the computer, because we may, in this case, if I don't do the schedules, I might not be able to try to fix it, or maybe I will confuse the computer. I know there's a way to program the computer, but I don't want to ruin that cycle in this case. So the schedules will come out like usual in the future. I think the last week is June. The last week of June will be the end of the schedule. We'll be coming out with the July through October schedule, but it will come out as usual. But in this case, we will have to adjust as we need. So in this case, we might not be able to distribute from the chalice. So we're not going to be able to distribute precious blood during Mass. And even in extreme cases, we now might be able to need any Eucharistic ministers until further notice, which is a sad situation. But at the same time, we have to really see and look at it from from a safety point of view, just so that we can protect you and also protect our parishioners. And maybe in the end we might do a spiritual communion on the projector, or we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what the Archdiocese will mandate us to do, but we're gonna have to just adjust as needed. So in this case, no chalice, or even no Eucharistic ministers until further notice. So again, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the future is holding for all of us. The only thing is that we can do is again, pray to Christ in the Eucharist. Stay safe, stay together, stay in touch. If anybody has any questions, let me know. If anybody needs in this case a copy of the references that we are using in the other sessions, like the general instruction or the Constitution, like the general instruction of the Roman Missal, or in this case the Constitution to the Sacred Liturgy, just let me know and I'll send you digital links to them. If you want to buy a hard copy of them, then you're gonna have to buy a hard copy of them. But I will gladly send you digital copies of those your way if you like to. Otherwise, I'll just send them to you in an email with the link of this video, just so that it'll be easier for everybody to receive and to get. Okay. Thank you very much again for joining me in today's session. God bless everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon, God willing.